Hello everyone, I'm Praneet Chandra. I'm Senior Director here at CloudKeeper and I lead Cloud Economics team. And welcome to this webinar of Cut Your Cloud Bills. And today I've got two brilliant panelists along with me. Please welcome Manoj Patel, who's a Chief Product and Technology Officer at Kofluence and a very dear friend. Hi Manoj, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Praneet. How are you? Hello to all the panelists and hello to everyone. Let's make it a very awesome session today.
Thank you, Manoj. And along with Manoj, I've got Ronak. Ronak is Senior Director of Product here at CloudKeeper and leads all thing initiatives around usage optimization. Hi Ronak, how are you doing today?
Hey Praneet, I'm good. How are you? Hey Manoj, nice talking to you after a long time. And hello to everyone. Please feel free to put your questions in the chat. Happy to answer as part of it.
Great. The goal of this panel is to basically help you. We all keep on hearing phrases like cost optimization benefits, you must optimize your cloud, or reserve instances, or usage optimization is a way to go. But the challenge that we all see that is we do not have our actionable steps where we can go. And the challenge is not just actionable steps. Hey, do we have construct clear, right? What are the different areas, how we can cut our cloud bills, right? How do we understand what are the actual pain points where you can actually reduce cloud costs? And that's where this entire panel is focused on. So in case if you've got any questions, feel free to drop in the chat. We'll be very happy to take it as we go along. And with that, what I would do is I would start with my very first question with you, Manoj, right? So you lead a good budget back at Kofluence, right? So how do you decide what are the key metrics where you are overspending or underspending, and how do you recommend identifying or eliminating cloud waste without affecting performance?
Got it. Yeah. So very interesting and very insightful start of the discussion. Metrics, when we say in my experience, I am an architect also. I have spent almost 2 decades in the industry. So when I start putting the cost question around anything that we are doing here at Kofluence, is that we first of all track the per unit of work cost. So everywhere I start with cost per unit, either your transaction, whatever is your unit of work, it's a transaction or a user, if you have a specific MAU that you are targeting, or if you have a specific microservice or API, or in fact your domain driven services. So you always start with the cost per unit of work, and you have to know what exactly is the cost occurring in executing all of these workloads, hosting these workloads. Then second key metrics is right sizing. So when we say right sizing, what exactly is right sizing? Very simple, naive term, whatever requirement you have, the infrastructure is capable to handle those requirements or not, and you are not overspending by having extra buffers into that. How do you track it? The resource utilization rates, for example, your CPU, your memory, your storage utilizations, you keep a tab on all of these things. So that's the second most important metrics is right sizing. Third one being you always have to audit your systems to see if there are any idle resources that are lying around, if there is a bucket that I have just put for the test purposes and I forgot about it, or any test resources that I have put, an experiment with certain database or some cache that I have done and now I forgot about it. So idle resources have to be identified, and period over period you have to actually optimize that. And then the last but not the least is month over month spend, and what are the variances that are coming into it. So these are the 4 key metrics that I actually keep track of, and it helps us in a great manner to reduce the cost. We have reduced just by looking at these 4 parameters from 40% to 70%, we have reduced our workloads. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And I think this is something that we should make a note, right? Like basic things, that basic hygienes and how we can do that. Yeah.
And the second part of your question was, how do you eliminate waste? So again, just start with these 4 metrics. Look for any zombie resource that is just lying around, and just to keep your USDs involved. And then at the same time, the right sizing opportunity, you again have to, for example, we regularly find instances running at 20% CPU, 40% CPU, and we need to downsize it. At the same time, while doing this, you should always, remember if all the developers friend who are joining this webinar, they understand this term is called back of the envelope calculation. So you have to always see what kind of resource utilization are going to be there in your services or in your subsystems, and then based on that, keep a little bit of buffer. That's a practical advice I'd like to give.
Thank you, Manoj, for that one. Yeah. And I think we also have one quick question, Ronak. I'm going to divert it to you from one of our attendees. Is it possible to set alerts for when specific resources need resizing? Can we set alerts as such?
Yes, definitely. So all the cloud providers provide this functionality, as Manoj mentioned, that you should track the CPU and RAM to do right sizing. So in specific to AWS context, we provide the CloudWatch matrices. For example, if you are having CPU above than 50%, then you can have the alert on your side by Slack and wherever is your flow of work is there. And according to that, you get those alerts, start monitoring, and take right sizing decisions.
Thank you, Ronak. Thank you for that answer. I think that helped you answer that question, Apurva. Thanks for asking that. Manoj, that brings me back to the other important question, because I know has been our chat, right? Many a times we always get confused, right? Hey, when we should use reserve instance, when we should use savings plan, on demand or a spot, and there's a constant struggle, right? Okay, how do we make the right coverage? So can you help us understand what are the key differences between them, and how should we choose that, or how do you choose at your business, right? What are the best options for yourself?
Right. So let me start reverse engineering this solution. If you are familiar with the stock market terminologies, you can't just put all your eggs in one basket and just go along with specific equity or all mutual fund or all savings. This is not going to help you in the longer run. Instead, you should have a portfolio of mix of all sorts, like an investment portfolio. Similarly, in this case also, all the options, reserved instances or spot instances or savings plan, everything has their own purpose. So you should have a mix of all of these. That's the first point. Let's settle that. And second is, now let's go into a deeper one. So if you have a very fixed sort of requirement, you are very clear that for next 1 year, next 3 years, I'm going to use this particular EC2 in terms of AWS or any specific server, then you can put a reserved instance. You can access the reserved instance facility. And what does this do is it reserves a specific instance for you, whatever configuration you choose, and it can go up to the 70% savings when you do this. At the same time, you have a rigidness of choosing this option. You can't get away with this option with this resource that you are just using. You have to use this entire resource. Second one is the your variable workloads. If you are not sure that I will need this specific configuration of server or this specific configuration of database, but you know that you have certain amount of workloads that needs to be executed, then in that case you go for a savings plan, where saving plans basically allow you to reserve your computes. For example, that I can have this much amount of computes in next 3 years, but you have a flexibility of choosing and playing with your resources. You can anytime switch off a resource, take a new resource, and while keeping the compute part in check, you have to use that particular bandwidth. So that will give you a greater flexibility. So if you are in the matured state, your production workloads are in the matured state, then you can probably go for reserved instances. But you still are exploring, go ahead with the variable workloads. And if you keep having this kind of demand where in the peak seasons, in the peak hours, your requirement changes, then go for savings plan. The third one being the spot instances. So spot instances have recently been introduced. Of course, a few years, but that should be a recent in the history. So spot instances are game changer for the tasks such as batch processing, for asynchronous jobs that you can control. So what spot instances are, when you take, for example, AWS provides your spot instance. You can take this instance for a temporary basis, and then you can execute some of your batch processing on it. The drawback is that spot instances can be called back. That means it can be switched off from the AWS side whenever they need this back. So if your batch processing is jobs can actually have the pause and play again feature if you have designed it in such a manner, or if it's a non-production critical workload, then you can probably go ahead with spot instances and can save up to 80%, 85% cost on the compared to on demand. And as I mentioned, my specific advice would be that you should go with a mixed portfolio of all of these. For example, in Kofluence, what we do is anything that is, for example, the database. I'm sure that my RDS workloads, my database workloads, this is going to be long term with me. So I will go for reserved instances for that particular stuff. Any servers exploration, when we have to do horizontal scaling and all that, for such use cases, I will go for variable workloads. And for any kind of batch processing, asynchronous data pipelines, or for example, training your machine learning workloads, you can probably go for spot instances. And you should be careful about this fact that it can go anytime. So you have to design your workflows like that. So yeah, that's all.
Great, thank you. And I think we also have another question for us, Ronak. So Pradeep asked, what's the process to automatically downgrade that T3 or DB servers in AWS? Do we have any automatic downgrade process as such?
So not automatically term is there. So of course, there are steps to do it, and that would bring downtime. So I'm assuming, Pradeep, you have asked, so you know what to downsize. So not going at the visibility part. For example, you mentioned T3. So let's say if you have an M6G.large instance and you decided to move it to, let's say, 3-4G.medium instance. So of course, you can stop and start it. That's one way of doing it, and make it a script out of it. But when you do it, you will bring 10 minutes of downtime on your business. So of course, you do not want to do that. So go with blue-green deployments in this case. So AWS provides blue-green deployments. As part of it, you will have zero downtime, and you can automate that as well by writing that script, or you can utilize CloudKeeper Tuner. So CloudKeeper Tuner automatically will not only give you the visibility, but automatically change the instance according to your usage patterns. Hope this answers your question.
Perfect. Thank you, Ronak. I think we have got another question from Deepak. Deepak says he's a new user at CloudKeeper and in FinOps domain as well. What are the best and useful ways to get optimized results, and how? And I think this I will open to both you, Manoj, and Ronak. I think both of you have got wealth of knowledge on this one, right? So please take it up. Yeah.
So CloudKeeper provides both the, as Manoj mentioned, the visibility part and then taking the action part. So we have all those tools in place. So CloudKeeper Lens provides you the visibility. So as Manoj mentioned, track your monthly usage, track your usage on resource level. That Lens will provide you how your daily spend are coming in. For that, start utilizing CloudKeeper Lens to give that executive visibility and where your engineers or DevOps folks should be taking the actions. Now start utilizing the CloudKeeper Tuner for resource level recommendations. You know that I have this much of amount, and am I underutilizing? Am I having idle resources? I have resources created which are not being utilized. Zombie resources, unused resources, right sizing, scheduling, that all comes into Tuner. Start utilizing Tuner and it will automatically reduce your research and taking action time from 1 month to in a day itself.
Manoj would also love to learn from you. Apart from, I think Ronak has just talked about CloudKeeper, but you, like, how do you go? What are your other pieces on internet? Where do you go to get helpful resources to do optimizations? Like, what do you read? Like, what do you consume? Yeah.
Right. So to start with, we also have used CloudKeeper Tuner. So just a caveat that we have benefited with it. But if, for example, you don't have any such resource, then what will you do? So basically, implementing an automated lifecycle policy will actually help you. I will elaborate my answer. So, for example, if you have a data storage policy or an archival policy, this is a kind of policy you can implement where if any data that is lying around for 30 days can automatically move to infrequent access storage, and such as your backend data warehouse and all of that. And then if there is anything which lies around for a longer term, let's say 90 days or more, then you can utilize something called glacier storage to permanently archive these things. So this is basically optimizing all of your data storage, all of these things. Similarly, you can always find various opportunities, such as you can utilize CDN for your static content dissemination, so that it will drop your data transfer cost. And at the same time, you can have all of these policies which actually help you out, and then periodically getting the sense of how your cost is implementing. Let me tell you one. I'll just take another 10 seconds. So basically, when you do explorations, you do certain workloads, the technical debt or the infra debt, you can call it, can accumulate over the period of time. So periodically, monthly, quarterly, half yearly reviews of all of your systems will actually help you. So apart from having an automated life cycles, automated rules that can give you alerts and all of that, will helpful. But at the same time, this human audit approach can also be helpful, and that's when Ronak and Praneet, you guys helped me a lot. So thanks to you for this one, where you cannot always go on automation for these kind of variable or volatile requirements. You have to also do the manual audits. So this is how I would go for this particular solution.
Got it. Thank you, Manoj. Yeah, that was really insightful. Thank you both, Ronak and Manoj. Coming back to my next question, Ronak, and this is something I hear very often, right? Data storage and data transfer fees really add up, right? And this is a known devil, right? I think all of us try to figure out our own way. So what are your top strategies for data transfer costs? I think data storage, very much Manoj has covered in his previous answer as such. So I would like you to focus on what couldn't we do in data transfer fees as such.
In my experience, that's everyone's problem. So how would I go if I'm a part of a company and I see that data transfer costs are coming into picture? See, data transfer in itself is a very unpredictable in nature. So think it like you have a internet setup in your home. We normally get 2 GB per day. I have a bandwidth allocated for that. So even if I utilize it, I will consume it and I will get charged for that only. In case of cloud, it's open-ended. If you start getting today itself 100,000 of users at one go, you will start getting charged for that data transfer fees. So of course, this is abrupt and unpredictable. So first check is always start doing the proactive visibility actions. You need to have alerting monitoring system in place. So whenever your data transfer fees goes up above your threshold, you get notified. When you start having this, then go for architectural change integration, because data transfer is mainly about networking architecture. So in our experience, of course, networking is harder. Let me put that in proper perspective. You need a better architect, and of course, startup can afford that. Later stage, you will have a better architect and the senior folks to. When either you have the expert, take help of the vendors like CloudKeeper to have those expertise. Change your architecture where you are getting most of the cost coming into picture. For example, you should doing the compression if you are utilizing CDN to reduce the cost. If you have inter-AZ terminology, so AWS has inter-AZ terminology, which measure of the data transfer cost coming into picture, change your architecture. So just to give you an example on this, so we have a customer who were getting charged $20,000 off, one of the part of $20,000. So we just change it to normal net gateway to gateway endpoints, because major of their data coming from S3 and customer were downloading those PDF files, and S3 plus DynamoDB for their internal workloads. When it's free, so AWS has those terminologies, start utilizing, and their 20,000 went to zero. So you have to keep yourself updated with the new architecture things that are coming into picture, because AWS does help on reducing those. Hope this helps.
Great. Thank you, Ronak. Yeah, I think that was a really insightful one on data transfer costs. With that, I also have another question for you. Thank you, Roberto, for asking this question. Would workload migration from traditional compute to a serverless be a viable option for cost optimization? What would be key drivers and consideration for and against this? Ronak, this one goes to you, right up in your alley. Yeah.
So I have a first-hand experience with both. Well, I have been to both places, to be honest. So in my particular scenario, if you have the expertise and you are starting up, go with serverless. It will give you flexibility and less cost as well. But when you have static workloads, I would strongly recommend, or you have predictability, go with do not go with serverless, because it itself comes with challenges. So just like data transfer cost, serverless give you open-ended solution. So let's say if you got maybe, I don't know, DDoS attacks, you are running lambdas, you might have your cost shoot up, and just like Vercel and other stuff, where serverless can be a boon but can be a curse as well. So if you're running a SaaS and you're starting up, I would recommend serverless, and provided you have that expertise in house. Otherwise, you want to keep the cost low in starting up case, go with that serverless, provided you have expertise. If you are scaling up, move to predictable workloads. You can utilize Kubernetes so that you have the budget alerting setup. Go with bare bones tools and other functionalities as well. But if you have a lot of elastic workload and you think I need this for particular batch processing, serverless can help in that case. So again, there's no one size fits for all, but according to your business use case, take account of your expertise in your team, take cost control of the cost, and move the static or predictable workloads to major non-serverless environments.
Great, thank you, Ronak. I hope Robert or Ronak would have asked you a question better. Yeah, great. So that brings me back to my other favorite question, Manoj, and this is just because I keep meeting a lot of prospects and customers, right? And this comes with multi-cloud environments becoming more common, right, with generative AI and everything else coming through, how companies manage costs across different cloud providers? And if I'm correct, you have also toyed with multiple cloud providers in past to work with them, right?
Right, one of our favorite challenges last few years. So we have used AWS and GCP both for some of our production workloads. And honestly, initially we have struggled a lot. It was initially a challenge for us, but then we have started figuring out. So basically, one thing can help in this regard is if there is any unified view of both the or different heterogeneous cloud platforms. If you can have a unified view of all the costs together, if there is a platform like that, please go for that. If not, you can probably start developing some kind of dashboard internally that can translate the two different languages of these two in the terms of cost. So that is first aspect, because anything for FinOps, anything for cost optimization starts from understanding where exactly you are spending and how you are actually interacting. In the case of multi-cloud, the interaction is the actual culprit if you are not careful. So we actually have been, my production workloads on AWS have been talking to GCP. We were using some of the machine learning workloads on GCP. And then, if you are not careful, the data transfer cost itself can, kill the entire interest in the cost optimization, because it actually shoots up. For the machine learning workloads, you have to understand what is your data transfer cost. You have to design your architecture. It also boils down to this architecture piece, because how many frequent trips are happening, how the communication can be optimized is something you can consider as one of your strengths. So this is something that we have done. We have, and also from the manageability perspective, this doesn't directly is relevant for the cost optimization, but actually for the manageability perspective for your DevOps, for your development teams, you have to take certain discipline there. For example, your naming conventions, your nomenclatures, your uniformity of your architecture and your environment, all of that actually adds up to the cost, not directly, but it will nonetheless add to the cost. So this is something that I will recommend here.
Great, Manoj. Thank you. And that's a great experience. I think most of us are in a similar place where we are trying to push some of our machine learning workloads into GCP or keep it to the compute and storage in AWS. But yeah, I think these are points well taken. Thank you, Manoj. And that also gets me to another question, Manoj, that you alluded earlier, right? How do you manage your long-term reserve instances and savings plan, right? There's always a fluctuating need that comes, right, once in a while. So how do you keep that buffer, or how do you orchestrate, right? You just gave a great analogy about like share market. How do you have the stocks, equities, dividends, and everything? But what is your management style, right? How do you think about managing these things? Yeah.
Right. So I would suggest a layered approach here, starting from reserve instances. As I already pointed out, that if your workloads are predictable, for example, we have taken some of the RIs, for a 3 years commitment or a 1 year commitment, which can greatly save your cost, right? And that is for a very predictable workloads where you have figured out everything: your data transfer, your data bandwidth requirements, your network bandwidth requirements, your storage requirements, and compute as well. For such use cases, I will generally go for reserved instances, and I have done that. The next big thing is savings plan and on demand. The on demand is always higher cost, as everyone know. For my fluctuating needs, saving plan was a lifesaver, because for example, I'll give you an example. We needed to shift some of the compute optimized instances to memory optimized instances for some of our analytical workloads. And we could very easily do this because of the flexibility that savings plans provide. So this was a lifesaver for us. So for such needs where you are not sure, or you are still exploring, the landscape has been evolving last couple of years, especially with the inception of AI into the actual production workloads. So we have been using a lot of data plumbing. We have been leveraging AI, our self-hosted AI models, plus GPT or Gemini, these kind of LLMs. So for such needs, you are not sure when exactly your context memory will run out, when exactly you will need more memory or more storage, or your data transfer and all of that. So for such needs, you should go for the savings plan, right? It would give you a freedom. You will not be stuck. And then the next thing is, I will keep an audit. So basically, this is a pro tip. I always, before coming to you guys, I used to manage, some sort of spreadsheets for all the RIs, for the audits. When exactly your workloads are getting expired, your reservations are getting expired, you have to actually keep that in mind. So that is something that we have been doing, and renewing it properly. So that will add to the cost saving greatly.
Got it. Thank you, Manoj. And with that, I also have a question for you from Pradeep. Thank you, Pradeep, for asking this question. Given the huge costs which have increased in cloud server space, how best it would be to look for an on-premise server? Would that be an optimal for a SaaS platform? And I think, Manoj, there's no other right person apart from you to answer this one, because you have a very
Right.
structure, right? Like, what do you?
Right. Yeah. So thanks, Pradeep. See, I have some great experience working in the on-prem systems. Earlier in my career, I used to work with NetApp, which is a platform as a service, a leader in the world. So we have been actually working on a lot of on-prem. So I have a first-hand experience of using this. If you are a startup, there is no way you can go with on-prem. The challenges that comes with it, of managing, of for example, taking the automatic snapshots, your database, keeping the memory in check, all of that thing, it will actually kill your business. You should focus on your business if you are a startup, rather than actually investing in on-prem technology. And if you have a very critical workload, such as if you are having trust issues for some of your workloads, then probably you can go with it, but I won't recommend it firsthand. If you are a well-established organization, for example, if you are some kind of bank, if you are some kind of NBFC, or a security organization which needs to have some legal protection around data, we also we are into Kofluence, is into influencer marketing space. We deal with Google, Meta, all of these organizations, and some of the data protection laws applies to us. So we know this particular aspect. So if you have certain requirements where you have to keep your data very secure, if it's some kind of legal restriction or requirement, you can probably go for this one. But again, if you should be very careful, and you should know your expertise on this one. If you have a very good DevOps team or platform team who can manage all of these deployments, all of these infrastructure, and can keep it optimized always, then you can probably take that decision. But I believe that for this decision will go in favor of on-prem if you are matured, if your organization, if your production workloads are matured enough and you need some kind of data protection. Otherwise, I don't see a point at this moment, especially for startups.
Got it. Thank you, Manoj. And that also takes me to the other part. This one is for you, Ronak. Uh, what is the balance between automated and manual automation, right? Optimizations as such. We all talk about, hey, all the boring jobs should be automated, right? A very famous quote, right? Everything boring should be automated. But is it true for cost optimization, first of all, right? And what's that balance that we should hit? And has there been any situations what you have encountered where automation was not useful, but more towards like you had to do those manual adjustment?
Definitely. So I think Manoj already touched on it previously. He mentioned that where manual intervention is required and automation is required. So I will just expand it further. So for repetitive tasks, just like if you are doing office hour scheduling, so if you're running non-production workload, so of course you're not going to put your engineer to just turn off in the night and start in the morning. If you're doing right sizing, frequent right sizing you are doing. If you are doing spot management, so you have a dynamic workload and AWS provides plethora of instances. Of course, you're not going to change those dynamically. So here the tools, either you can build in-house, you can utilize CKTuner or other vendors as well. Here, lead with the automation. So your engineering bandwidth get the maximum ROI, business get the maximum ROI, and they also take leverage of the battle tested automation, but also maintain the human oversight. For if you're doing automation tools will provide the visibility but do not properly rely on taking the actions. So for example, if you're doing complex architecture decision, use automation for visibility and getting those recommendations. But if you're doing cost benefits analysis for major chunks, so there might be a possibility automation might not be covering all the cases, but every change is business specific decision. So always have the expert with you. Edge cases, it's specific to, as mentioned, business context, make sure experts are involved either via your vendor or your in-house team. Just to give you a couple of examples, if you're moving from legacy architecture design, so in AWS there's a x86 architecture. If you're moving to ARM, your application might and 90% of the time it will break. So just do not go with the cost benefit analysis, but also take help of your experts to make those changes. If you're taking multi-cloud strategy decision, here the manual intervention comes into picture. If you are doing compliance sensitive workloads, so for example, in Tuner, if you do not set that if you're a fintech company and you require 1 or 2 years of data compliance, we will tell you after 3 months delete this particular snapshot. Of course, that's not right in your case. So change the automation according to your business context and do not blindly follow automation as well. That's what I would strongly recommend.
Thank you,
Right.
Ronak. Yeah. Manoj, you were saying something? Sorry.
Yeah. So I was just adding one liner here. So basically, as Ronak has pointed out, an automation can, for example, I'll give you this one that, the automation can always suggest you downsizing something. But what would you do if if your expert understands that there would be a memory spike for a specific purpose? If there is a big billion-day sale and then your systems need memory more than usual, then what would the downsizing would cost you? It can cost you your business. So while automation tools are good for covering usual repetitive parts, human oversight cannot be discounted.
Great points, Manoj and Ronak. I really like it. And I see another question from Deepak. Can you have a list of daily, weekly, and monthly tasks that should be followed for getting best optimized results? Yes, Deepak. And as part of this webinar, what we are doing is we are giving you out an essential checklist that you should use every month, basically, in order to keep your cloud workload optimized. So post this panel discussion, you will have it in your inbox, right? So keep tuned for it. Thank you. Yeah. That takes me to the next part of my question, and this is something that Manoj I'll ask you, and probably Ronak you can also chip in. How important is 24/7 personalized support to your team, like when managing cloud-related issues? Right, in past you might have used AWS support, you might have used third parties, right? And how do you feel the importance of it, given DevOps is not an easy thing to hire or to get a good DevOps in the market, right? So your
Right.
opinion and views on it, yeah.
Yeah. Right. So I will again simply just give you my practical experience. So when we have actually started, we didn't, as you rightly pointed out, we didn't want to invest, in a huge DevOps team that can manage the infra. We were just starting out, and that time we took, an expert support, premium support from the cloud provider, because this 24 by 7 personalized support actually help us focusing on our core business rather than dealing with day-to-day tasks which we are not expert initially. So if you are a startup, you are starting out, if you are exploring something, I would suggest this can help you directly achieve your business, and it can save a lot of time for you. At the same time, when we have become a little bit of more matured, we have gone through some of the learnings ourselves. We have actually discontinued the 24 by 7 personalized support. We have a great team of DevOps in-house, plus at the same time, instead of taking the 24 by 7 support from the cloud provider, we have you guys to help us. So that way, we didn't need that particular aspect. So that's how I will go for this particular problem. But again, as I'm envisioning this, as the production workloads becoming more complex day by day, I will again go and start hiring this 24 by 7 on support, because again, as the things go complex, I don't want to have a manual investment from my side. Someone just keep tabs on all of these things. Instead, a 24 by 7 support would be crucial, especially if your production workloads are mission critical. Anything that needs to be really real time, you can't have the luxury of exploring yourself. So that's how it can be very beneficial. Yeah.
Definitely. Ronak, any takes from you on 24/7 personalized support?
I think Manoj quite pretty well explained it. But just to add a couple of points on here. So, of course, you're starting up, you can't afford hiring the DevOps. So here the vendors or maybe AWS support will definitely help. Not only doing the production issues handling, but if you're AWS is 400 plus services, and if you're trying EMR and you do not have the expertise, the developer support and other AWS enterprise support can help you get those going faster as part of your development speed. So CloudKeeper and other vendors will give you that better ROI. So if you're spending $20,000 of support, you can get in-house support by the CloudKeeper, 1,000 plus of engineers and DevOps professionals, architects are there. So you can utilize those functionalities for free instead of paying $20,000 and go for the discounted PLES support. And if you're fintech where your business do not can't even go for a downtime of 10 seconds, here the support comes into picture. Just to give you an example, if you're fintech, for example Razorpay, they can't afford it. And let's be honest, you are building your business on top of something else, so you need those folks with you, right? And Manoj rightly mentioned, if I am capable enough and I'm my business is capable enough to increase and afford that cost, because that ROI would be better, because even for the 10-second of downtime, that $20,000 will compensate.
So I think if I have to really summarize both of their answers, is like how many dots of nines you support after 99 depends on that. You should just go for that support. I think that will very well summarize this. Great. We come to our last set of questions right over here, gents. And Manoj, this one is for you. How does having granular visibility in your cloud cost at the source level help you with decision making? Like you have talked about it previously, like you have managed spreadsheets and other things. But how do you look at granular visibility? Like, has your views changed over a period of time? I think everybody would be more interested in that one. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So let's understand this from the perspective that I'm a naive DevOps, or I'm just starting out. I am just being, I've just started developing the architectures myself or setting up the infra. I would simply just have a tunnel vision of saying that, you just keep this best EC2, you keep this best EMR, you keep the best one in the RDS, and just go ahead with that. And that's how you can actually cover entire risk that you have. You can, be that confident initially. But when you talk to some of the learned fellows, they will tell you the actual juice would be in the details, where you, for example, if you have just launched a microservice, you have deployed a microservice, and which is costing you 2000 monthly, to 2k dollars monthly. If you have a granular visibility, you may know that it is quite possible that that $2000 can come to $800 and some extra data transfer cost. For example, in my case, in my organization, what we were doing is one of my microservices was actually which is needed internally. It's not an externally exposed service, and it is getting called to a net gateway outside, going outside into the public web, and then via net gateway we are coming back. It is incurring data transfer costs. Now, if you have the granular visibility of how each of your components are interacting, how they have been laid out, and how much is their individual utilization, will help you reduce this particular cost, right? So this is one such practical example, and it will not only improve your cloud cost, but also it will help you in achieving the efficiency for your consumers, because you will optimize each of your individual unit of works, your individual infra component, subcomponent. So I would of the opinion that in the entire piece, whatever we have discussed, two things stands out. You must have visibility, and you must have this visibility at the granular level. If you don't know the problem, you can't solve it. So this is where I would focus on, and this has done wonders for us. If I will, just give you a broad, assessment, we have actually slashed our cost by 3. So that's how we have granularly solving this problem, one component at a time. So that's what my solution would be.
Thank you, Manoj. That was really insightful. I think if you cannot diagnose it, you can definitely not fix it. That's rightly said, right? And that also brings me to another part of question, Ronak. Of late, we have been seeing, right, that people say that, hey, Cost Explorer reports are not great, or the reports that we see from cloud providers are not great. So do you think there's a space for building out custom dashboard, anomaly detection assistant, like using a third-party tool, or like something that we should be built in-house? What is your take on it?
Anomaly detection and custom dashboard, both, and custom dashboard are more of a business use case specific. And Manoj mentioned that granularity helps, right? So every customer's architecture, every business has a different architecture. So just to give you an example, one of our quick commerce customer, we provide them hourly visibility of their resources, how they are performing hourly. So in that quick commerce, they're in holidays or in festivals, in the morning they see the spike, in the evening they see the spike. For those hours, it helps them to properly architect. If you have that visibility on hourly level, not only architect, save the cost, and dynamically adjust your workload so that it automatically give you predictability on how to do commitments, when not to do commitment, when to run the spot, when to run OD. Custom dashboards definitely help on this. If you are let's say you are a streaming company, so you need to know your data transfer cost visibility at hourly level, how many requests are coming into picture. So different use case provide the requires different matrices, and different architectural decisions comes out of that. Now coming to anomaly detection, it's always taking the proactive measure instead of realizing those later. Just to give you an example, so one of our customer, they were creating their own foundation model. So they had P3.16x and I think 24x large instance for a day itself. That was $25 per hour. So their data science created that instance, forgot to turn it off, because AWS is so easy. Just click on it and you will have that instance for you. And after 1 month, you will realize, I got charged $25,000 for 1 hour of work. So as part of anomaly detection, we have that in place. We proactively tell our customer to take those decisions via providing the alerting and monitoring. And in bigger cases, we directly reach out to the customers as well when these things doesn't happen. So we saved, they got charged for $2,000 for I think 1.5 day. And we just told them after the next day itself, and they stopped it. So anomaly detection definitely helps. If you haven't set the budgets, your normally what people do, if it is taking 200x or 200% of the cost, people do a proactive decision on those. So definitely anomaly detection, I have seen so much power on that sense, and CloudKeeper does pretty good job in that. You can set up those in-house as well, but again, business use case specific anomaly detection is hard. So definitely utilize the already pre-built tools, and majorly those are battle tested. You can create in-house, but you might not be covering all the cases.
Got it. Thank you. And I think I've got another question from Dipinder that asks about, hey, what is your feedback on well-architected review? And I think it directs to both of you, Manoj and Ronak. I think both of you have been through this well-architected review, right? So what are your take on it, right? At what stage do you think well-architected review is good? What is the feasibility around it and other things?
Okay, let me go first, then I'm Manoj, you can add further. See, so well-architected reviews cover 6 pillars. So cost is majorly, we have seen customers go with cost-benefit analysis for that. If you're a fintech, you majorly go for security aspects as well. See, if you're covering reliability, availability, and probably operational excellence, and for a startup, it doesn't give much ROI, but it helps you to scale faster and cover the mistakes which you will see in future. So that get reduced. It provides cost benefit analysis as well as security consideration happens as part of it. So definitely from my perspective, review is always good because it is not harming you, right? And a lot of assessment, CloudKeeper gives the free assessment for that or what. So go for that. At least you have the visibility if am I doing something totally different or something totally wrong as part of security, probably cost, which I could have saved. So, and for bigger organization, I think it should be done quarterly because you are dynamically increasing. If you are, let's say your business is going 100% growth year on year, and I can guarantee your cloud would be definitely growing by 20 to 30%. So definitely war is required in those cases for every quarter instead of doing a half yearly or yearly.
Right. So yeah, I would also of the same opinion that you should not see well-architected reviews as just for the cost implications. It is basically, if I would have to put cost, I would put last in this particular tool. I would first put performance efficiency of or how well you have laid out your architecture. Is it reliable? Is it actually if you have taken some workloads, should it be compute optimized? Should it be storage optimized? If I have to just minimize the cognitive load to take some of these decisions, it will give you initial findings of or some initial directions to think about. So in terms of security, your data protection, your IAM access management, all of this. So I would say this is, you would have a good ROI if you start using this particular tool. I would not discount that. And then at the same time, it will give you the cost optimization as well.
Great. Thank you. And I hope that answers the question, Dipinder. And that brings us to the end of this panel. Thank you, Ronak. Thank you, Manoj. Will we still be open for another 2 minutes? If anyone has got any questions, we are happy to answer. Yeah. Please feel free to drop your any queries or questions for Manoj or Ronak right over there. We'll be very happy to answer now.
Very interesting questions from the audience. I believe a lot of these audience have been very hands-on with their daily workloads.
Yeah, definitely. I think, as I said, right, the whole reason we started doing this panel was we used to hear hey, how frequently we should do that? What is the actionable step? What is the checklist? What is the guide? And I was like, we should get more and more experts to talk about it, right? I think it's a knowledge that cannot be condensed in books and other places, and we thought like let's start condensing it a little bit so that people can consume at a more faster pace. So yeah, that is
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It took us years to understand all those things. I think Manoj and we did work together on this cost optimization space. We knew how we evolved as part of it. So either you go with experiments or discuss and apply those changes. So that's the whole purpose of this call.
Great. I think we have got another question from Deepak, and Deepak says, "I'm new to this, so any kind of suggestions that will help me perform better in terms of cloud optimization, right? How can somebody become expert?" I think that's what Deepak's intent is. Yeah. And I will leave it to both of you experts to answer me. How can somebody become expert in cloud cost optimization? Yeah.
So let me cover this because I was initially on that level. I never used to look for cost optimization as a DevOps and the product leader. When it came into picture and we created a company around it as well. So as a layman person, you have your bill coming into on AWS Cost Explorer every month. If you are fresher, just start looking at top 5 cost. If you do not have any any tools or other things with you, go into each granular item which is costing too much, see where the cost is going, learn about it, and there are already a lot of plethora solutions exist. Start applying those parts. As part of applying those changes, you will learn a lot. I think that's that's how I would go for it. Then you will automatically go for, if you're repeating those tasks as an engineer, you will automatically look for the optimization tool, because these are repetitive tasks I don't need to do again, and you either build that in-house or go with the a lot of open source solutions exist for this as well.
Perfect. Thank you,
Perfect.
Ronak.
Yeah, I would also add. So basically, if you have to become a financial planner, if you have to become a finance, expert, you have to earn first, right? So it's a basic first principle. So if you are starting out, start learning about more and more components that cloud provides. And as rightly pointed out by Ronak, if you have to start for just the cost optimization details, just go and look, every day, what exactly are you using? And if you don't understand those terminology, you can probably, just search in open web, understand those components better, and then you yourself will realize whether your specific production workloads require that or not. If not, you can simply optimize it. It is as simple as that. But you can't be an expert in a day. You have to significantly invest in learning the underlying infra subsystems and components in order to master the art of cost optimization.
Rightly put. Totally agree with both of you. And that also brings us to the end of our panel discussion. Thank you, Manoj, for joining us, and thank you, Ronak, for helping us with all the brilliant tech questions today, right? And much appreciated. And post this webinar, if you've got any questions, feel free to shoot us an email. We'll be very happy to answer. If you would like to understand how we can help you in terms of reducing your cloud costs, yes, we can very well, right? So thank you and have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone.